5C. Okay, so first of all, y'all were asking me, how do you know which way to go on your arrows? So here, employment status affects if you own a phone. So that means our arrows were going from the employment status, and that means our fractions will go this direction. Okay, and then that means that these guys right here, the employed and not employed, that means conditional upon you being employed or not employed, at what rate do you own a phone or don't own a phone? And then this total one would be your marginal. So that's how I did my numbers. So here's my employed numbers, and 25 out of 93 employed people own a phone. 68 out of 93 people do not own a phone, and that's how I got that percent. I don't need to do this last column here because this is the marginal I'm interested in. The overall own a phone. See, I want to know overall, this is 28 out of 188 overall own a phone, and 160 over 188 overall do not own a phone. So then I'm going to compare, so up here, I'm going to compare the owning a phone percentages, conditional, these owning a phone, to overall owning a phone. So, for example, compare this 26.9 to 14.9. I can say then, if you own a phone, you are what? Sorry, wrong. If you are employed, because this is, given that you're employed, you are what? Compared to overall. Compare 26.9 to 14.9. If you are employed, you are what to own a phone? I'm thinking if you are employed, you are more likely, because this number is bigger, to own a phone than overall. Okay, and then on this other one, yeah. All right, so, and look at here. If you are not employed, you are more likely to not own a phone than overall. Only 85% don't own a phone. These are obviously old numbers. Probably be switched compared to that. Okay, so let's look at another one, the up and down one. So up and down one, we see which affects which. Gender is affecting the, let's see. Gender is affecting the body image. So my arrows start at the gender. Gender is affecting body image. So that's the way that my fractions will go. So that means I'll have this female group, and how many, the proportion of females that think they are just right, overweight, or underweight. Then I'll have the given that you are a male, conditional upon you being a male, what rate do you think you're just right, overweight, underweight? And then we'll compare those to overall marginal. Okay. Now, you had bad numbers on this problem, so you didn't really get to do those. I'm going to fix them in my packet for next year. So let me tell you what I did here. So I got these numbers, and let me tell you what you're comparing. Let's kind of talk about this problem, because we're going to talk about insurance, and I need you to understand what's going on here, okay? So this is a problem about people that go to the hospital and get serviced. And, sometimes they'll let you out maybe earlier than you think they should have. They try to get you out there as quickly as possible. They don't hang on to you for, until you're just all hunky 100%. So the question is, if you get discharged earlier than you probably should have versus not getting early discharged, do you think that's going to affect you having to get rehospitalized later?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what these numbers are checking to see. Insurance companies are probably interested in this. Why would insurance company be interested in knowing if early discharge will make you more likely to get hospitalized? Why? Because of the money involved. They want to push you out of the hospital as quickly as possible to cost them less money. But they need to know, is that going to make you have to get rehospitalized and ultimately cost us more money in the long run? Okay, So this is a real life problem. Okay, so look here. I did my numbers. So here's the way I did my arrows. This discharge, does it affect the rate in which you got rehospitalized? So that's why early discharge, 13.5% had to get rehospitalized. And look, here's the marginal. Overall, 12.6% of all patients have to ever get rehospitalized. So, but wait, let's say conditional upon you being early discharged, that was just 13.5% had to get early discharged. That's a little bit higher, but compare those two numbers. How close are these two numbers, 13.5 and 12.6? Are they within 1 percentage point? Yes. They're within 1 percentage point. So we're going to say that that's not that much of a change. So the fact that you got early discharged didn't make you have to go back to the hospital at any more higher of a rate than just overall rate. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, so look at this. Here are people that did not. Here's conditional upon you being let out of the hospital when you were supposed to, not early discharged. 11.9% had to go back into the hospital. What number should I compare this 11.9% to? Overall, going back into the hospital. So I want to compare my conditional to the rate overall. So 11.9 compared to 12.6. Those are within a percentage point. So what do we say? Not much different. So let me ask you this. The fact that you got early discharged or not early discharged, did that change the rate in which you had to go back to the hospital? Not really. So you getting early discharged or not didn't change the rate. So therefore, I claimed that this was independent events. Does the insurance company like or not like that discovery? They like it. Why do they like it? Because that tells them they can push you out early and it doesn't make you necessarily more likely to have to come back and get rehospitalized. Ding, 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 ding. This is real life stuff that they will figure out. I mean, it's not this numbers or whatever, but I guarantee you they've got their statisticians figuring that out. Okay, so there's that. Okay, next, let's go through these really quickly. Page 6. Here's the problems that I had with this one. What do these sections stand for? I mean, it says that it's about various technologies. I'm like, what the heck? What are each of these technologies? The total is way more than 100%. Did you notice that? How about how distorted? What's that called if it's distorted? What's it violating? It is violating the area principle. I mean, first of all, look at this 46% right here and this 46% right here. I just highlighted two areas that numerically are supposed to be the same. Do they look the same? Heck no. Also, look at this 86%. This 86% doesn't look a whole bunch bigger than this one. Okay? Those look about the same. So the area principle is definitely violated here. Okay. Now, yesterday we went through and did these problems here, so I'm not going to go through much of that. We talked very carefully about this indicating what the denominator was. This of all students indicating the denominator of the Asians and of all students. Okay, so check those out there. Okay, moving on. Okay, so we're about to do some work on this page, so let's take a look at these numbers here. Okay, this problem, let's get what this problem's about. This problem's about you being a student or a staff member and the type of car you drive, American, European, or something else. So which is the one affecting the other? That's our first question. Which variable affects the other? Does driver affect the origin, or does the origin affect the driver? Driver affects the origin. That is why I draw my arrows top to bottom. That's why I have those circles. Okay? Tell me which sections of this are conditional and which section is marginal. Where's the conditional ones? Good. These student and staff ones. These are conditional because you are saying conditional upon you being a student. Here's the rate at which you're doing American, European, Asian. Okay? What's this one over here in the edge called? Marginal. That is the what? Overall rate. So this is going to be the overall rate at which you own an American car, a European car, and an Asian car. Okay. All right, so moving on. Here is your answers that you should have here. What percent of all cars surveyed are foreign? Okay, and there was your denominator. What percent of the American cars? So 212 is your denominator. Check your fractions. What percent of the students? So 195 is your denominator on that. Okay, and then let's talk American. Marginal. We just said a moment ago that marginal is these numbers here. 212 over 359 for American. 45 over 359 for European, and 102 over 359 for Asian. Okay? So that is how you got these in letter D. The last one is conditional. That means you're going to have a set of answers for students, conditional upon you being a student. There's your American, European, and Asian. Conditional upon you being a staff member, there's your American, European, and Asian. Technically, what should I compare these to? Am I technically supposed to compare side by side, or am I technically supposed to compare a conditional to the marginal? To the marginal. Technically, you're supposed to compare to the marginal. When there's just two items, you can compare to each other, but if there's multiple conditionals, you need to compare to the marginal. Okay. Now, I want to take this time to teach you something that I haven't really laid out before, and this is going to be important on your quiz. So here, which is Monday, by the way. Okay, so here is a format. I'm going to tell you a 3-step format that I want your answers in. Okay, and I actually don't like. I kind of have this in there, but I've tweaked it a little bit. So I want to answer. Let's do this question right here. I'm going to do it over here to the side, and I'm going to tell you. The question was, are they independent? Okay, so based on our data, is driver type independent of car type? If they are independent, then the fact that you're a staff or student does not change the rate at which you have an American, thing. Is that true? Right, because I can tell you right now, the fact that you're a student or a staff, the fact that you're a staff makes you what to have an American car? More likely, correct. The fact that you're a staff member makes you more likely to have an American car. So, independent or not independent? Not independent. Okay, so we're going to come over here, and here is the ideal conclusion, 3-step conclusion that I want on the quiz. Here we go. Step number 1, answer independent or not independent, and you guys said it was not independent. Okay? Item number 2 that I want you to include. I want you to include our little ditty, our song from our little words from our song, because it's going to talk about affecting or not affecting, or changing the rate or not changing the rate. So we will say the fact that you are and what do I say? The fact that you are what? Well, let's pick one of the variables. The fact that you are a staff or student, good, makes or affects the type of car you have. Does that sound like a good sentence that makes sense to people? Because a lot of this class is about, can you communicate to people? You're interpreting this data and you're communicating to them what it means. Yes?
Could you like start it off with the conditional, like saying like the type of driver affects the type of car or something like that?
Yes, you could. You could say the type of driver affects the type of car you drive. Okay? That's good and short. Okay, third item that I want to be included is at least one specific numerical support. They call it statistical support because it's going to be actual numbers. So I'm going to come over here, and you remember a moment ago when I said if you're a staff member, you are what? More likely to have an American car than American cars overall. That's what we're going to write. Staff are more likely, and there was a lot, you could pick any of those situations to write a percentage. Staff are more likely to, to have American cars. And don't stop there, than what? Okay, if you want to say students, because there's just two groups we can compare, then students. If you're going to compare to students, then what are my percentages? Staff had how much percent? No, staff had 64%, and students had 54.9%. See how I want an actual numerical value? Okay, so here is your, like a 3-point sermon. That's a lot of times that happens. You got a speech and it's got your 3 points, or you have a sermon and it's got your 3 points. Here is our summary, and we got our 3 points. You say independent or non-independent. You tell me what that means in layman's terms, and then you give me a specific numerical support. Okay. All right. So let's finish this up. Here was this thing where we had marginal. So which affects what? Does age affect blood pressure, or does blood pressure affect age? Age affects blood pressure. That's why our fractions go this way. Okay, tell me, where are the conditional ones? Where is the conditional data? It's conditional upon you being what? Under 30, or 30 to 49, or over 50. So this is these 3 sections here are the conditional data. This one here is overall. What is that called if it's overall rates? Marginal. Okay, so that's the marginal. Okay, so here is the marginal ones for low, normal, and high. Low is 95 out of 474. Normal is that, and high is that. Then, within each category, see my numbers? 27 over 98. 48 over 98. 23 over 98. So that's the way I did my fractions there. Okay, so let's go ahead and practice our just recently learned 3-point summary. So, here we go. You ready? Is age independent of blood pressure type? Okay, so our first thing is not independent. Yep, absolutely. Okay, next thing, what's my next point I'm going to do in this summary? Okay, good. Age affects your blood pressure. That's easy. And now what? Give an example. For example, pick one. Pick one that's like the biggest difference or something.
The highs.
I like the highs, yeah. In fact, I like this guy right here. If so, what would I say? Let's make a sentence about that little part I highlighted. What you want to say?
As you get older, your percentage of getting high blood pressure
Okay, and I want to be able to give like a specific numerical support, so I'm going to specifically mention that, for example, the over 50 age group is more likely to have high blood pressure than the under 30 group. I'm just going to compare two of them. And I'm going to say 37% versus 23.5. So I just compared these two. Okay, that's it. All right. So I think that's finished going over your homework, talking to you about that summary, because you will be making that summary on your quiz on Monday.